The Robot Man Metroid is my favorite character, and Star Allies is a bad game. General misconceptions are a part of every gaming franchise and are often the result of superficial knowledge or simple word of mouth. Whatever the case may be, they stick in the mind of many players and are regarded as facts even today. To every mother out there, all the Pokémon are named Pikachu, and although these examples only apply to people who are not very familiar with the medium, there are still a lot of general misconceptions that seem valid at first sight. Today we would like to focus on the Kirby series and smooth out the biggest misconceptions across the franchise. You would be surprised how many of them are out there. Let's start where it all began, Kirby's Adventure, right? According to many people, this is the first Kirby game in the series because it basically introduced the foundation of every entry in the future, which is only partially true. While it's safe to say that Kirby's Adventure was the first one with proper copy abilities, it's actually the second game in the franchise and did not release for the Super Nintendo, but Nintendo Entertainment System instead. This is mainly due to how excellent the graphics still hold up, leading many players to believe it must be a Super Nintendo game. Still, Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy established the Pink Glutton as one of Nintendo's most well-known heroes and was the first title in the series. It did not feature copy abilities at that time and was extremely short, but proved the simplicity fantastically and is often overshadowed by its much more elaborated successor. While we're at the topic of Kirby's Dream Land, you are probably aware of the famous story of Kirby's color. Because the Game Boy was not able to portray proper colors, some people think Kirby was originally white, which is supported by the retail box in the Western release. This isn't actually the case at all, as the Japanese game box features a pink Kirby, the color he was supposed to have all along. Because Nintendo of America did not get precise information right in time, they just assumed Kirby should be white and therefore influenced many players to this date. This goes hand in hand with the story of Shigeru Miyamoto seemingly arguing with Kirby's creator, Masahiro Sakurai, about Kirby being yellow originally. It is often portrayed like Sakurai fighting for Kirby being pink, although it was slightly different. Miyamoto, as well as many other staff members on the team, just assumed Kirby would be yellow because of many popular characters sharing this color at that time. Apparently, it was only Sakurai who imagined Kirby to be pink all along, which came off as a surprise for his team, but was accepted due to how a little yellow ball would probably be too similar to a specific other gourmet. Kirby is one of Nintendo's most famous flagship series, but he's not a Nintendo character technically. Unlike Super Mario or The Legend of Zelda, Kirby is and was always created by HAL Laboratory, an independent but closely tied to Nintendo video game developer. Another title they are known for is part-time UFO, which initially released on smart devices, proving how they could develop for other platforms whenever they like. The reason we bring up this fact is Kirby's 30th anniversary, because HAL is keen to celebrate the occasion with all sorts of events, merchandise and more. Many fans find it a little inconsistent to make a big deal of Kirby but treating Zelda's anniversary like a smaller thing. The reason for that is simple. HAL is responsible for whatever Kirby is doing, and Nintendo is frequently either only supporting/funding their ideas or simply just giving a go. This is supported by one of the interviews of Kirby in the Forgotten Land, where it was stated that Nintendo humbly waited for HAL to pitch the first proper 3D Kirby, which underlines the concept of Nintendo simply letting them handle Kirby however they imagine. So whenever you see exciting news about the Kirby series which might clash with Nintendo's usual approach, just remember it is not Nintendo managing the franchise alone. Speaking of handling the franchise, for the longest time and even today, many people still think Masahiro Sakurai is the director of most Kirby games. Yes, this man is really hardworking and it very likely speaks for his diligence if people expect him to direct a mammoth like Smash Ultimate while working on the Forgotten Land simultaneously. Kirby, but this is just an echo from the past. The last Kirby game Sakurai managed was Kirby Air Ride for the GameCube, and after that, he left HAL to pursue other projects. The rather unknown man behind today's Kirby games is Shinya Kumazaki, who started his career as a Kirby director in Kirby Superstar Ultra for the Nintendo DS and is still responsible for all the adventures we see today. Many fans love him for bringing in the elaborated lore behind every title and optional pause screen descriptions during boss fights. It goes without saying that he shaped modern Kirby to the quality games we know, and without him there wouldn't be a whole community who takes apart every piece of lore in newer titles. When we released our video Why There Never Was a 3D Kirby, some people counter-argued with the existence of Kirby 64, the supposed to be first 3D Kirby entry in the franchise. To be honest, I was surprised that there even is the perception of Kirby 64 being a three-dimensional game, but you cannot blame this idea. The Nintendo 64 is the home of classics like Ocarina of Time, Mario 64 and Donkey Kong 64, all three of them bringing their respective franchise into 3D gameplay. Kirby also shares the magical 64 in its title, with the difference of only providing three-dimensional visuals in a linear approach. Today, this style of gameplay is usually called 2.5D because of all the dynamic camera shifts and expressive backgrounds, giving the illusion of a full 3D adventure. If you have only seen screenshots, you could easily follow this impression, but sadly, it would take a lot longer until we could witness the jump to proper 3D. A somewhat smaller piece of misunderstood information is Kirby's gender. For all the mothers out there, he's also neither a Pokemon nor a Mario character and is officially not a boy or a girl. Of course, thanks to his name and pronunciation in Western translations, we often just assume Kirby to be male, but in Japanese they try to keep his gender neutral, with some smaller exceptions. But it's not only Kirby as a character who faces some communication errors. For many people, it's quite unclear in which relation King Dedede and Meta Knight are linked to Kirby. Is Meta Knight a serious foe? Is King Dedede a good guy? While there's no official statement, it's safe to say both of them depict friendly rivals with different approaches. Normally, Meta Knight is not an evil character and just likes to test his skills with Kirby, and King Dedede, being the goofy blockhead, is often simply mind-controlled. Kirby Fighters 2 features both Dedede and Meta Knight as the game's antagonists, but you can clearly see the friendly rivalry in the air when fighting these iconic enemies. To put it in very simple terms, Meta Knight follows basically the edgy, dark counterpart archetype seen in many games like Shadow, Wolf or Wario, while King Dedede is simply the Bowser of the Kirby series. Of course, both of them having a much more light-hearted tone. The last misconception for today is also one many fans like to mix up. Viewers of the Kirby animation show quickly noticed how the show uses many recognizable music pieces from Kirby Air Ride, with the difference that it's the other way around. Most of the tracks you can hear during Air Ride originated in the animation show, which is proven by the usage of a leitmotif in one of the tracks from the opening of the show. In addition, the overall more orchestrated tone is no coincidence either, as the soundtrack was made with the TV adaptation in mind, but nonetheless Air Ride of course features a couple of original tracks from the same composer. And here we are. We hope we could bring in some light into some general misconceptions, and who knows, maybe at least one of them opened your eyes a little. Are there more mistaken information you come across we forgot to mention and need to be addressed? What was the biggest misconception you found out about way too late? Write them down in the comments below, as I realize I know too much about a franchise made for children than actual important stuff. Did you know